Episode 11 of Crafting for Profit Live. We are so excited that you are here today. Today is our second quarterly Q&A. So once a quarter, Angie and I don't bring on a guest. We just sit here and sort of answer your questions or talk about a certain topic. Just the two of us because it's fun. And so today we will be talking a little bit about what it's like running a crafty business sort of behind the scenes, kind of like a day in the life of, if you will. So we're going to be talking all about both how we ran our businesses in the past, as well as how we run our businesses now. And I think we're going to get some good insights today on just what it's like to be running a business behind the scenes.
So if you are joining us on that live YouTube and you have questions about like daily schedules, productivity, anything like that, ask those in that live chat. Now, if you're joining us for the podcast or the YouTube replay, you can ask us in the comments on YouTube or on your podcast notes. You do have a form to ask us questions at any time, and we might include those in a future Q&A episodes. Stay tuned. We do these once a quarter. All right. So, as always, the best way to support us is to rate and review the podcast or give us a thumbs up on YouTube. And we are doing so good in the crafting category. We go between 1 and 5 in crafting in the United States, and we want to stay there. So your rates and reviews on your favorite podcast platform helps us to get there.
All right. So we're sort of diving in today. We don't have a lot of preamble. We're just chatting. This one's going to be a little bit more loosey-goosey, I think, than some of our other episodes. But we knew with the holiday coming up, we needed something sort of chill today. So we are going to start with talking about sort of how our craft businesses started and kind of what we did in the beginning. Angie, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. So I started my blog in 2010, early 2010, started a YouTube channel shortly thereafter. Now, I started my business while I was working full time, and I actually started the blog as a hobby. So it was just like I was going to, New Year's resolution, I was going to use my blog to keep me accountable. And then somewhere about a year or so, I realized people were actually reading what I wrote. And I thought, heck, maybe I could make some side hustle money. So it started as primarily a side hustle for me. My degree's in engineering. I was working full time as an engineer. And I thought, why not make some side hustle money, that vacation dollars, that type of thing. Started an Etsy store probably in 2011, late 2011, something like that, catering towards weddings. And during those early years, it was very much at night, weekends, very early mornings. I worked before work for a long time. My kids were younger at that point, so I didn't have a ton of time in the evenings. So I worked before they got up, after they went to bed, and sometimes on the weekends to get those blog posts out, Etsy orders running. And then at some point, my Etsy shop started doing pretty well. And my oldest daughter was a teen at the time, and she started actually making a lot of my products. So my first, employee, if you want to say that, was actually my children. So she would make a lot of the products. So I would sign them, do all the listing photos. And because it was catering towards weddings, we did, we would do 300-400 place cards or something like that. So she did some of that manual labor behind the scenes for me at one point during my journey. So that did help a lot. And then, of course, my team grew and my day changed from there. But it was definitely very much a side hustle in the beginning and a lot of hours off work hours. So very early mornings, very late nights.
So it's kind of similar. I started blogging like literally 20 years ago. So I started a blog to like keep my family up to date with when I was going to graduate school. It had nothing to do with anything. But I just kept writing because I love to write. It's one of my favorite things. And so my blog just kind of continued. I wrote book reviews. I mean, I did everything. And then in 2010, I started to really focus on like things I was making. Now that included everything I was sewing, other crafts, food, DIY projects. I mean, it really was kind of all over the place. And it wasn't really like, I'm going to make money. It was more just a creative outlet because I was working at a marketing company in a very not creative job. I was a copy editor. And so when you're a copy editor, the point is to not be creative. It's to follow the rules. And I kind of just needed something on the side to like just get that creative bug out of my system. And so like Angie, I was working evenings. I actually wasn't married, didn't have kids at that point. So I could use my evenings and mornings and weekends the way I wanted, which was kind of nice. But after a while, I started to like make a little bit of money here and there. And I was like, maybe I can do this. And so when I got married in 2013, I quit my marketing job with the goal of bringing in like $400 of extra income a month based on like stuff from my Etsy shop, which was mostly things that I had sewn, and my blog. And I was like, I think I can do this. And my husband was like, yeah, all right, let's see if you can. So after that, it started to grow. And I was being like able to kind of work on it more full time. But before that, it was all sort of in the margins. I was just lucky that my margins kid time didn't overlap. I had working full time, working in the margins, at home full time with twin babies. Also difficult.
Yeah, that's a whole challenge in itself there. And I was gonna say, I didn't go full time until 2016. So I spent 6 years doing that early morning, late at night, any hours I could squeeze in lifestyle. So yeah, it did not happen overnight at all, at over here.
Yeah, I worked on, I mean, like I said, I've now been blogging for 20 years. And we kind of, I think Angie and I both benefited from that. We sort of grew with the way content creation sort of first became a thing. And when Etsy was really kind of taking off, like we happened to be at the beginning of that, which obviously we can't replicate now. I mean, there are things where it's like, is this going to be the next big thing? Like if you got in on TikTok in the beginning, right? Maybe you're doing very well for yourself now. Congratulations. Angie and I are not you. But, we do have like the benefit of that hindsight to realize that we probably got into things at a good time as well.
Yeah, that's Pinterest for me. I joined very early. My Pinterest following is huge if you look at it. It does do well. Like I get a lot of traffic from Pinterest, but it was frankly just joining early, and that is a stroke of luck. And I do feel like every success story has at least one stroke of luck that I hear. So any type of success story I hear, they usually have one stroke of luck, one viral video, one viral something that happens to them that sort of propels them forward.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've had some really good content. I don't know if I've ever actually really had anything go seriously viral. Um, I think my stroke of luck is that my husband was like, yeah, sure, give it a shot. And that was a really amazing opportunity that I don't think a lot of people get, to just sit at home and try and figure things out.
All right, so do we want to go to what are some challenges in the beginning?
I want to go back. I want to do like,
Okay.
what is a day in the life look for us like back then? Like, what did we wake up and how did we like structure our day? Do you want me to start this one?
Yes.
Okay, because I can start with it. I didn't. I do so bad, guys. I woke up every morning going, what should I do today? And because I did everything in my channel content, I was like making a recipe here and trying a craft here and sewing stuff for that craft fair there. And I mean, I was all over the place. And I thought that was normal because back then there were a lot of people that were doing all the things. I did not understand the concept of niching down. And I woke up every morning without a plan, which meant that whatever came at me is the thing I did, right? Like, what came to my mind today? Oh, I'll do that. Oh, I got an inspiration. I'm gonna go to the grocery store and get these ingredients. Whatever it was, I feel like I had no plan, which is so strange for me because I'm really a type A planner person. But for the first couple of years, I really didn't have a great plan. And I feel like a day in the life was literally just reacting to whatever kind of came across my plate that day.
So I'm so glad you said that because that's why I wanted you to start. Like I feel like I just woke up and was like, what am I going to post on my blog today? Shouldn't I list something new on my Etsy shop? What should I list? Like I had zero plan. It was just fly by the seat of my pants. And I do feel like my content as well as my products suffered because of that, because I literally had no idea from day to day what my plan was, what I needed to work on. And like promotion, should I promote something today? Sure, I'll promote something. Zero planning, zero like schedule. It was just like whatever I felt like during the day. And I do feel like the beginning of my business suffered because of that.
I found it very stressful as well. And then it stressed me out because I felt like I wasn't growing a lot of the time too, because I was like, should I be doing recipes? Should I be doing crafts? Should I be working on the craft fair stuff? Should I be posting stuff on Etsy? I mean, and then it nowhere grew. And I was probably like, why isn't this working? It's because I wasn't putting 100% of my effort into like the thing that I really wanted to do. I was just spread too thin.
Yeah, and then it's like, "Oh, this new thing called Instagram. I need to join it and I need to focus on it." Like there was always something new and shiny, and the lack of focus, I feel like was a huge challenge. And I feel like that's a challenge for people starting out today, which is why I mentioned that. It's like there's always something new. There's always something that's some new platform and should I get on this? And it can be very overwhelming and then you're so scattered you don't even know what to work on.
Yeah, I'm gonna tease again. I've teased a couple little things I'm working on, this little side hustle of mine, and I've been tracking like some of my wins and some of my difficulties and those sorts of things. And right at the beginning, my first difficulty was like, I am like a squirrel. Like I cannot seem to focus. I cannot seem to figure out what I need to be doing. And it was just like I was back at the beginning because I hadn't been doing it long enough to say, okay, I really need a plan. It was like, oh, I can squeeze, and I'm doing it in the margins, right? Because I'm running this blog and business and all of this other stuff I do full time. So now I'm starting this little business in the margins. And so I'm finding all of those things that happened to me 10 years ago, which, well, now, gosh, now like 14 years ago, are coming back. And it's been really interesting because I'm like, I'm over those things. And I'm like, literally, I'm not. I definitely had to like step back, like really focus, make some lists, purge some of my ideas, get everything out on paper, do a lot of brainstorming, do some planning, a lot of that kind of thing.
So maybe we covered the challenges. Did you have any other challenges in the beginning you can think of?
Um, Let me think for just a minute. I feel like some of the challenges too was that when we first started, there was no guidance. there was there was no playbook on how to do anything. There was no like how to run a successful Etsy shop. There was no how to start a blog, how to start a YouTube channel. Now there's a lot of content out there about how to do all of these things, but we were making it up as we went along, I think, when we first started. And I think that that isn't as bad as it is. I mean, some of it is, like some of that still exists because if you don't have somebody to talk to, you could just be spinning your wheels going, am I even doing this right? But I feel like it was way worse when we first started out.
And I feel like the challenges of the business side of this, because you tend to be a creative person if you jump into a craft business. So the business side of that crafting business, like the licensing, the accounting. I was horrible at accounting up until like 3 years ago, y'all. I mean, seriously, those portions of the business, and you start the small business, and it is only you. You don't have a team. It's only you. You're the accountant. You're the bookkeeper. You are the social media person. You are the person behind the scenes making the product to sell on Etsy. Like you are all of the things. And some of those roles you're not going to enjoy. And I found that a huge challenge at the beginning is embracing that and learning to deal with it. Things like accounting, business licenses, getting registered with your state, sales tax. Cori and I have cried over sales tax multiple times.
Oh, sales tax. So for me, another challenge for me was photography right away. So I don't know why in particular I struggled with photography. My dad is a photographer. Like it is been his hobby. He has won awards for his photography. And I could not take a good photo to save my life. This was before cell phones could take good photos. So you had like your big Nikon camera. And I really struggled with photos in the beginning. Other than accounting, I don't think anything made me cry as much as not being able to get good photos. And I do think, again, that's something that has gotten so much better. You can take decent product photos with your phone now, much better. You don't have to go out and buy an expensive camera. There's a lot of editing software that we didn't have so many years ago. But I remember just being like, oh my gosh, I made this beautiful thing. It's so gorgeous. And I can't take a photo. Can't take a decent photo of it. It was probably also like I was making something that was glass. How do you take a photo of something that has a reflection? Things like that, where it was just like constant learning to be able to get to the point where I could take a decent photo. But I do feel like a lot of people do struggle with that photo taking in the beginning. And it's hard. It's really hard to kind of get an eye for it. And after a while, you'll develop that as a skill, but it's not something that I think comes naturally to a lot of people.
Yeah, and on that note, video. I mean, the like seeing yourself, hearing yourself, filming video, editing video, and video, it is becoming a society where video is like something that everyone wants to see. They want to see your face, they want to see you on stories, they want to see, like video of you packing an order, of you making something, behind the scenes footage, different things like that. People love that stuff, and it can be so hard to jump into it. And I will say, like, I was scared to death and just had an opportunity to actually I did a series of lives way back in the day. Some of those are still up if you want to just scroll back. And I just embraced it, and bit the bullet and did it. And it was one of the best things I ever did. The advice I would give, we get a lot of questions in our little form about starting with video. The advice I would give is to start small and short. That's the advice I always give to everyone. And maybe just your hands if you're very conscious of your face or your voice. But I started in the beginning with very short videos. There was a social media comes and goes, y'all. There was one called Vine, and it was like 6-second videos, if you remember those. And I actually started on there, just making very short 6-second videos. And 6 seconds, you don't have time to talk. You don't have time to like just show a few little snippets, but it was like very good for me to get used to the video thing, lighting, not shaky with my phone, that type of thing.
Yeah, video for me came a lot later than Angie. The only reason I think I started it was because of the number of times I was like, Angie, I don't want to do this. And she was like, you got to do it. And I was like, but I don't want to. And so I finally got started. So if you're thinking, I don't want to do it, now I get to say you should do it. And again, you don't have to like start like a whole YouTube channel. Maybe you're just wanting a small shop that you can have, but making that content, short, quick content for social media that you can put up. The algorithms just favor it, which sucks because like, again, and now I can take a great photo, but nobody cares. And I'm like, oh, I got to make a video.
Even if it's a video in your Etsy listing showing how to use your product, like those will stand out in a crowd. If everyone else has just static images and you are showing your tumbler on like, one of those turners where it turns all the way around and shows that 360 view in a video, I feel like it makes your listing stand out.
Yeah, so I have been doing a lot of Etsy research lately, and I do think they favor products that have a video in the listing. So you can add a video to your Etsy listing. Well, I've got things in this side hustle. I'm just going to say it. I've got a printable. Like, I've got a couple printables, right? There's other stuff too. But in the side hustle, I got some printables. I'm like, how in the world am I going to do a video on a printable? Right? Because it's not like something you fill out. It's just an art print. And so instead, what I did is I went into Canva. I loaded just the square piece of art, like the mock-up that I did of the artwork. And then I did a little animation and zoomed in on it. So it just zooms in on the artwork. And that's it. I exported it as an MP4, uploaded it to my Etsy shop. And it's like, they're like, oh, you've got a video. Great. So I'm like, thank you. So it's like so much easier. I think sometimes when you use tools like Canva, a big one that I like using lately is CapCut. Because if you see all of the reels that have like an overlay, so it's like, Ross Geller from Friends going, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I'm fine. Right? Like you got his face making the things and then it's got like just some text at the top. Like when you forget to mirror your vinyl and then you just put Ross on there with a picture of something in your craft room, you have a reel that doesn't have your face, but it's funny and it, probably will get people laughing and liking and all of those things. And that doesn't require all that much. So Canva and CapCut are two good tools to use if you don't want to get your face in video quite yet.
And it's good tools to learn, like overall, for your small business. Okay, do we want to go to what worked well?
Yep.
In the beginning? Okay,
Yep.
So in the beginning, I'm going to say something that worked well was finding a group of like-minded individuals. So Cori and I talk a lot about, collaboration over competition and that type of thing. And working for yourself, no matter if it's a side hustle or you're go full-time, it can be very isolating. Your friends aren't going to understand, like, you make money selling crafts. I don't understand that. You post on Instagram. Why? Like, there's just tons of questions around it. Like, people in your life might not understand it. And finding those people that could relate to that. An online group is fine. Local group, perhaps. but finding people you can relate to and help build one another up. I feel like that was one thing that worked really well in the beginning for me, just learning from others and helping to build each other up, support each other, share each other's stuff, that type of thing.
I think something that worked really well for me in the beginning that I try to take into today as well is there's just so much content out there, but in the beginning there wasn't as much content, so you had to kind of, you know, make your own path, right? You had to, like, be creative, you had to figure out how to stand out from the crowd, you had to figure out, like, what you were doing really. And I feel like today you could just go out and copy what everybody else is doing, which, there's times when I do that. I've got Ross Geller on my thing going, "Ah." And so but, like, there are times though when it's like, I need to be myself. I need to figure out what I'm doing that's different than everybody. I need to be creative. I need to like really rely on the fact that I think that I have something unique to offer people. And I think that was easier in the beginning because there was just way less competition and way fewer ideas. Like when Pinterest came out, we were like, oh, I could put text on a photo. Like, I mean, it was just like mind blowing. And so it's like trying to find those things now that feel really fresh and new. And not that you have to go out and try everything new, but just trying to find your own place in this world, if that makes sense.
And in the very, very beginning, you aren't comparing yourself to others as much. And that, if you can keep that mindset, that will work really well for you. So the comparison game can kill me if I get to comparing myself to others that have a larger following, others that, I feel like do a better job than me, even though that's might be my perception. But if you can keep that mindset going throughout your business of not comparing yourself to others. Look at what your competition is doing, but don't downplay what you're doing. Like you have something to offer in this business and never forgetting that. I feel like that worked well for me in the beginning. And I lost sight of that at some point right in the middle there, where I was constantly playing a comparison game with others, I guess.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was just like, "Hey, look at this cool thing we are all doing together." Like, it felt like there was so much pie, like we could all have a piece. And then it got very, very competitive. And I think a couple years ago, Angie, me, and quite a lot of other people in the industry just got tired of it. I don't like being competitive. I don't like feeling like I'm not doing well or, somebody else is doing better than me and then feeling resentful or bitter or any of these things. Like, I don't want to have those feelings. I don't I want to live my happy little life. So I do feel like, in the beginning, it was more fun, I feel like, and I think we've come back to that now. I feel like, Angie and I are like, "Let's start a podcast," and by the end of the day, we had, like, a podcast idea. So it was, like, one of those things where you just kind of, like, roll with those ideas, and I didn't even look at any other craft podcasts, right? I was just like, "We're just gonna do this because it's gonna be fun."
Well, we talked about in the beginning how you woke up and you were just like, what am I going to do today? That in a way that's also fun. It might not have been very business minded, but it can be like a fun challenge. So I feel like maybe I need to go back to that. So I used to take just random craft supplies and be like, what can I make from this today? Because it was like I was starting my business on a budget. So what can these supplies turn into without me needing to shop for anything else? And now I hardly ever do that. I never think about like everything I have on hand. What can I make from that? I'm like thinking about a very cool project that's going to be amazing on Instagram, going to be awesome on Pinterest. So like in the beginning, it might not have worked well business wise, but it was very fun and it like made me flex that creative muscle a little bit more than probably I do now sometimes.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like it was just really fun, and I feel like in the last year or 2 that I'm like, "Okay, I'm finding a fun." Like, this little side hustle has been fun. Like, I'm like, "Oh, this podcast has been fun. Our camps are fun," right? When I go back to, like, write a tutorial on my blog, I'm like, "This is not quite as much fun," but it also pays the bills. So, it's one of those things where you're, like, balancing what's fun and what's profitable, and if you can find the intersection between those 2 things, you win.
Yeah, in the beginning, you're so full of passion and drive, and like you want to make this succeed, and not losing that, and not letting it become a 9 to 5. Like you're getting out of. You want to make this a full time passion. You're getting out of that 9 to 5 for a reason. You want to make this your own thing, so don't lose that passion along the way because it can be hard.
Definitely.
All right, so a couple episodes ago, we talked about our chronic illness issues, and I feel like that kind of leads into like what I did in the past. Maybe that did not work well. And that was letting the business get very stressful, not eating right, that type of thing. So today's podcast sponsor is Hungryroot. And we do have a coupon code and a URL for you. We have talked about Hungryroot before, and I must say that I am still absolutely in love with Hungryroot. My box came today and I am so excited. Like I went home and packed it right away and started eating on it. So this has been a game changer for me with getting healthy lunches, healthy snacks, especially. Now they do have dinners that you can absolutely get, but quick, easy, healthy lunches is like where my thing is, and the snacks as well, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like even just like Hungryroot, this is so funny. I sound like, I don't know, I sound like a crazy person when I talk about it. 4 months ago, before I had Hungryroot, I would eat like whatever I could find on the run for lunch, right? I had a bowl of crackers. I had some leftovers. That's fine. I had like 4 piles of chips. Okay, not probably the best lunch. And I found myself by the time I was getting to dinner, I was like famished. And so then as I was cooking dinner, I would like eat all the pieces out of dinner. if this happens to anybody else. But I'm like so hungry because I ate, such a crummy lunch that by the time I get to dinner, I'm just so, so hungry. And then I end up eating while I'm cooking. And then I get to dinner and I'm like, am I hungry? I don't know. It was a bad years of this sort of cycle. And then when I started to get Hungryroot, and now I just like make myself a really, really delicious lunch. So the other day I think it was stir-fried lemongrass tofu with some, it was like a broccoli slaw and a Thai peanut sauce over some 7-grain something or other. It was so good and so filling that by the time dinner rolled around, I was like, wow, I am a reasonable amount of hungry for dinner, which I just don't feel like in years I have ever gotten to that point where I've eaten a satisfying enough lunch that I wasn't like dragging by the time dinner rolled around.
I'm still like, I got more shrimp tacos in my box today. Like I am like so in love with these freaking shrimp tacos. I get them every single week. It's like I tend to like eat the same thing a lot. And so yeah, the shrimp tacos are my favorite. But I wanted to say like I have tried tons of meal delivery services and I have a ton of food restrictions and it can be very difficult. And I have had to cancel so many of them because they just do not cater to my restrictions. And that was the reason I found Hungryroot to begin with. So you can just enter the type of diet you're on, your food restrictions, and it will take away all of the things that you cannot eat. It puts them on like a restricted list. Now I can order them for my family, but it gives me a warning if I go to do it. And I love that. And they have tons of things that I can eat, which is very rare given the amount of food restrictions that I have. So if you have food restrictions, I highly, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it anyway if you're looking for something quick and easy. And we have a code for you. So the code is Angie40, and that gets you 40% off your first delivery and a free gift. And the link is link.craftingcamps.com/hungryroot. And that's link.craftingcamps.com/hungryroot. And if you're on YouTube, I put a QR code up in the corner. You can scan that. Across the bottom of the screen, we have the URL running. Highly, highly recommend. And I've been using them myself for like 2 months, 3 months possibly, and getting a box every week.
Yeah, I'm every other week because we still have a lot of leftovers. So I feel like I still eat a lot of leftovers for lunch, which is obviously totally a reasonable lunch. But one of the things I actually really like that has changed outside of my business is that a lot of times, a lot of the lunches I get will make 2 lunches. So I can make myself the same thing twice. But there have been so many times lately where I'm like, to my husband, I'm like, hey, can I make you, like he ate half the tofu peanut sauce thing I made the other day. And we actually sat down and had lunch together instead of me working at my desk and like shoveling food into my mouth. I took 30 minutes to make lunch and eat it. And then I came back so refreshed after lunch as opposed to just sort of shoveling chips in my face while trying to work, which is just not a great way to kind of do anything for your health or business. Let's be real.
And just like pause real quick. So someone said the QR code on YouTube was not working because they're in Canada. I'm not sure, but I went ahead and changed the QR code out just in case if you want to try to scan it again, because it is working for me on my end. So just to let you know, I don't know about the Canada restriction. Okay, so do we want to talk about our day in the life now?
There we go. I was
Okay.
muted. Sorry, I muted myself so I could take a drink of water, and then I forgot to unmute myself. So yes, let's talk about what our business looks like now. Do you want to start? Or you want me to start?
Either way.
Go ahead.
Okay. So at this point, I have a team of 8 to 10 people, and they're all part-time. So that might be a few hours a week to 20 plus hours a week, just depending on the person. So, and some of them do very specific things. So don't think I have 8 full-time people. I'm not, not that big. So at this point, I do have a team to rely on. So yes, we do way more things. And the business itself, I switched my Etsy shop at some point. I closed Etsy and then I went to all digital products and I went to my own store and it's on Shopify. So I have my blog, YouTube channel, and my Shopify store. So streams of income are ad income, affiliate income, and shop income would probably be like the 3 main streams of income overall. So the business has changed quite a bit from where I started to where I am today. Altered completely the different products that I sell, as well as growing a social media following, YouTube following, and following on my blog as far as like people visiting my blog and getting that ad income. So yeah, business changed quite a bit. And I did go all digital, and we get a lot of questions about like, do we have Etsy shops? Do we sell our own product? And I don't currently sell physical products. For me, digital was way easier. And I'll just be honest with you. Like I said, I started my Etsy shop. I catered it towards weddings. I should not have done that. I am not a person that likes to make things over and over and over again. And making 300 of something like crushed my soul or something. Like I could not sustain that. It just felt like a chore. So I probably would have quit if I didn't pivot. So I felt like pivoting was a better option for me rather than just giving this whole thing up completely. So I pivoted to something that I did enjoy. And also, just quite frankly, I do not like the shipping portion of sending things. Like, I don't like the packaging and the shipping portion of that side of the business. So I just decided to pivot to all digital so it's automatically delivered.
Interesting. I feel like I had a very similar, just pivot at one point. I pivoted because I found my audience kind of wanted me to pivot. And so for me, I was doing mostly sewing. So if you go back you'll be able to find sewing tutorials on my blog. If you go back far enough on my Instagram channel, please don't. You can find all sorts of sewing projects, a lot of quilting, that sort of thing. But I got a Cricut. And once I got the Cricut and started doing things with the Cricut, my audience was like, we want that. And I was like, but I want to sew. But I also really enjoyed using my crafting machine. So I kind of just made this natural pivot over to the crafting tech side of things, using that Cricut for years. And then later getting a laser, getting a sublimation printer, all of these other things came later. But I really felt like my audience was driving me to kind of pivot. And so like Angie, I have my blog, my YouTube channel. We have our camps and everything we do together. And then I do have my digital shop as well. I think I have 1,700 digital files in my shop now. I really enjoy design. I have a whole series on YouTube about designing SVG files if you're interested in going that route. But now I have a side hustle. So I have a secret side business that I'm just going to keep teasing, and you guys are going to be like, what is it? But that does mean that I am making physical products again. And I have to say, guys, I freaking love it. I thought for years, I was like, I don't want to make stuff because making things that you sew takes so long, right? The reward versus how much you can make for the thing you've made is it's just not there. I'm like, I cannot charge $200 for a Christmas stocking, right? Based on the amount of time it took me to make. But the stuff that I'm making now is a lot faster. I'm using my crafting machines. All of these things make them much more profitable to me overall. And I'm having so much fun. It's like I'm bringing back the joy that I had when I first started my Etsy shop into like today with some of the other stuff that I'm doing. And I just freaking love it. So I'm really excited. I cannot wait to share with you guys this whole journey.
I feel like both of our stories showed the importance maybe of pivoting when you're not enjoying it, because we talked a little bit in the like what worked well in the beginning was like the passion, And when you start losing the passion for it, doing some kind of pivot where it gets a little bit of that passion back, I feel like is a good move to help you sustain this type of business long term. Because if you lose the passion, you're just going to want to give it up, because there are days, you are going to have the days that this is just going to be like, I'm just going. Cori always says she's going to go work at Starbucks. There are days when you're just like, I'm going to work at Starbucks, just forget it. And you need something to like pull you back and get that passion back into it.
Yeah, I have to say that I feel like I've had more joy in the last like 2 months than I've had in a really long time. And that also comes with a lot of other just stuff happening in my personal life. We had a lot of very difficult things happen at the beginning of the year. A lot of those things have resolved in a happy way. So I feel like I'm just full of a lot of joy, especially this last month where I'm just like, I'm making stuff, I'm enjoying stuff. I don't know. I'm having a really, really nice month and I would like it to continue.
All right. So do we want to do what a day in the life looks like for us now?
Sure.
You want to go first?
Sure. Really, I feel like it has to be more like a week in the life because every day is kind of different. But I track sort of what I need to do for the week. I do it in a Word document or in a Google Drive document. And for me, it's like I map out basically week of, and I make a big list of like everything that I would like to get done for the week. And then I prioritize that list. I color code it on things that have to get done, things that I would, that can, if I can get them done, I will feel really good about them. I also make them a different color based on whether or not they're easy or difficult things to do, just so that I can know with my own brain, like, oh, I do not have a lot of brain right now. I need to do one of my yellow tasks, those sorts of things. So I'm always referring back to my Word document. I love checking things off a list, people. Like, it is my love language is checking things off a list. So I kind of work through the document. And so for me, that often means that I will spend part of my week writing a blog post, because for me, I find it easiest to start with writing a blog post. So let's say I have a new laser, I need to unbox it, learn how to use it, and then write the blog post for it, right? Take all the photos, all of that. And then I use that to create my video. I know Angie does it differently, but that has been what I found works for me. A lot of times on Fridays, I will leave that sort of open for kind of big projects that I'm working on. Like I just did an SEO review, so a search engine optimization review of my blog. And now I'm spending Friday afternoons digging into that. I'm spending, time before and after lunch working on this little side hustle. Like I feel like I'm just kind of moving stuff around, but it feels much more, I don't know what the right word is all of a sudden. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it feels like just purposeful, like that everything I'm doing has a purpose. I'm not spinning my wheels. I'm looking at my list all the time going, what do I have the energy to do? How am I feeling? Because we talked about this a lot in our chronic pain podcast. How am I feeling? What can I get done today? And then, obviously for lunch, I'm generally eating my Hungryroot and being really happy and chatting with Angie about all the delicious things I'm eating. And then I always shut down at 5 because that's when I go and make dinner, spend time with my family. I have the luxury of doing this full time now, so I don't have to work in my margins. So now my margins are pretty sacred to me. I will say that as I have been working on this side hustle a little bit more, I have worked a little bit more in my margins, but I'm trying not to do it during kid time because that's just really important to me. My boys are kind of they're 9. I feel like they're at that age when they just still really want to hang out with me. And I don't know how much longer that's going to be. And so I want to take as much advantage of that as I can.
Yeah, so I'm also like a week in the life is definitely going to be the thing. So I am a huge fan of batching. First of all, I'm going to say that, and I'm also more productive in the mornings. So mornings, I generally do computer related stuff, and I find I'm more creative in the afternoons. So I do a lot of my filming, video creating of the creative type process in the afternoon. So it's just kind of like how it worked out for me. And each day sort of has a theme for me because I do like the batching portion. So Monday mornings at this point are more of like getting stuff off my computer and onto like people that need it on my team. So, and smaller type of tasks on Monday. Tuesdays are all YouTube, Tuesday mornings. Wednesdays are big projects. So any big projects I'm thinking about. Thursdays are primarily blog days. And then Fridays, I actually schedule those off. I'm going to quote unquote off. because I do a lot of errands during that time. So you're going to have like errands, things you need to do, grocery shopping. I need to run to the craft store or whatever. And I try to push all of that onto Fridays. So those are kind of my days to do those type of things. And sometimes I do take off, but other times it's like kind of my work errands, in other words, on Friday. So that being said, I do work. I start at 7 and I go to 5. Again, well, like Cori said, I'm full time at this point and I don't have to work in the evenings. And I'm pretty strict with that. I don't jump on much in the evenings. I rarely jump on the weekends anymore. I am very, I try to be like very cognizant of that and like take that time off, take that time to relax, take that time for an actual hobby that is not related to this or, something I enjoy doing, some time with family, a trip, a weekend trip, something like that. So I try to take those times off just for the fact of I need the time to de-stress and to come back fresh on Monday morning. I always feel like that helps me a ton is to just take the time to relax, come back fresh. Now, I feel like batching can work for everyone, right? So it might not be my days, but you can batch whatever you're doing. So let's say you have an Etsy shop and you could cut all the things one day, press them the second day or something like that. I feel like it makes me much more efficient because my mind is all on YouTube on Tuesday mornings. I edit my videos. I put, do your YouTube descriptions. I make my thumbnails. I schedule them. I, schedule my community tab. I do all of these things all on Tuesday. So it all flows well, I feel like. And I can keep my mind focused on that task. For me, that works well. And I do think for a lot of people, it would if you just give it a try. So I do encourage a lot of people to try batching if they feel like they're not productive or their mind's all over the place. I can get very scattered if I try to do just a bunch of small tasks. But if I just concentrate on, say, our camps, like I did a lot of stuff with a thing we have coming up, and Cori's tired of my messages today, but I did a lot of stuff with something we have coming up in July, and I did those all this morning because it makes sense in my mind to just do them all while I have all the tabs open and I can just, kind of pop in between those.
Yeah, now that I'm making physical products again, batching is even better. Like, it has been, oh gosh, I'm having so much fun, guys. Angie's probably like, please stop sending me photos of what you're making. But I am just really enjoying it. So even before, I had like 5 minutes before this podcast where I was like, what am I going to do for 5 minutes? I could sit here and scroll social media. But instead, I had already printed out all of the sublimation prints for something I'm working on. So I trimmed them down. All of them, all at once. So now I can go after this and I can sublimate the projects I'm working on. And it just, even just getting like, I'm like, oh, now they're all trimmed. All of them. I don't have to like print one, trim it, apply it, press it, take the thing off, start over. It's just so much faster. And it's fun because I haven't done a lot of, I feel like hard use on some of my machines because I'm constantly writing singular tutorials on how to do things. But I'm like, oh yeah, Cricut mug press is getting a workout. Okay, X Tool S1, got to clean that thing finally because I'm actually using it all the time. And so I feel like batching has just been really, really a great thing to do. I'm also really enjoying just the process of kind of getting into a rhythm of there are things, especially when you're crafting with tech, where you have dwell time, right? So whether or not that's I'm putting a tumbler in my laser and it's going to take an hour to engrave. Well, I'm not just going to sit there while that engraves for an hour. I'm going to work on other things during that time. Or if I'm pressing a batch of mugs in my mug press, that's 6 minutes between each mug that I'm sitting back down at my computer. And I just kind of like, now I'm like, okay, like not even like really paying attention to it because I have everything I need to press all ready to go. And I just like beep, pull it out, pull in the next one, beep, and just keep going. And it's like multitasking with, I think it's not messing with my brain too much. Maybe it is. Our coach would probably yell at me, but what else am I going to do during that 6 minutes? Stare at my heat press? I don't think so.
So I did want to note that we are very privileged to have like people that work for us, because if you like listen to that week in the life of either of us, you're probably like, there are things missing that they tell us to do. Did either of us mention email marketing? we did not, because the fabulous Crystal, who's probably on here, does email for both of us. So there are things that we don't actually have a hand in a ton. I like make the assignments. Crystal writes the emails. I don't know how Cori handles it, but
Same.
I just want to say, like, we're very privileged to have people that work for us. So a lot of those things are left out on purpose at this point, because we do have virtual assistants that do those for us. And I don't have anyone like in office that does anything. Cori doesn't either. So it's all like virtual assistant type of work that they do it kind of behind the scenes. And Cori mentioned her process for videos, and mine is different. I do the video first, and then we take the transcript, and Jen, and I think she's on here as well, she turns it into a blog post for me. So while I do blogging on Thursdays, I'm just like editing the blog post, adding a personal touch, publishing it, maybe doing some rewrites on some old blog posts, but the actual physical blog post is written by someone else.
And I think when you want to start hiring things out, especially if you, depending on whatever your small business is, there are things that you can hire out locally. Like you could have somebody come in and help you with shipping, because like Angie, shipping already is still not my favorite thing that I'm doing here. I have it set up really nicely, so it's a little bit less of a headache than it used to be, but it's still not my favorite. So I wouldn't mind if this takes off, if it does a thing. I wouldn't mind having somebody come in and help me with shipping. But just recently for me, one of the things I don't like to do is edit videos. Like I find it just like drags me down. I could not afford an editor here in the United States. And so I actually went online and I went to Upwork and I found a video editor, and she lives in Pakistan, and I still pay her a decent wage for here and a very good wage for there. I'm not trying to find somebody who's going to work for $2 an hour for me. I pay her a very reasonable wage, and she does really good work for me. And so I was able to get that off my plate, to make space for other things I like doing. So I think that that's one of the things when you're starting it looking like maybe I could hire something out. It's the idea that somebody else, like your time is worth so much. And as you become a bigger business, your time is worth more. So you're not like, maybe in the beginning, you're like, I'm paying myself $10 an hour. Well, when you get to have a slightly bigger business, maybe you're paying yourself $25 an hour. And would it behoove you to have somebody come in that you're now paying $15, $20 an hour, whatever it is, wherever you live? It's very expensive to live where I live, so I don't know what other people pay in other places, but maybe that's somebody who can come in and do shipping for you, because your time is worth more now. And you need to be focusing on the more creative sides of your business, on the making, and somebody else who is a less skilled job. I don't really know what to call this type of a job, but it can come in and be paid a little bit less to do things so that you can do more in your business.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm the creative person behind this. Like I film all the videos. It's always my hands. It's always my head. It's always my project. And I sort of can get rid of some of those other tasks. And I always recommend to people starting out, I just made a list of everything I did, like every single thing I do. And I picked the things I disliked the most at first, because those are they're sucking the passion out of this thing you're doing. So whether it be your accounting, for me, it was Facebook. I'm just going to I'm going to be honest right here. I do not like posting on Facebook or handling groups. Like I do not like the algorithm portion of Facebook. I do not like it at all. And that was one of the first things that I outsourced, because I disliked it so much. I disliked the scheduling portion of my Facebook page. So I always recommend that to people. And that way it brings a little bit of the passion back once you outsource something that you really dislike about running the business. Like I said, you're at the beginning, you're all the things, and you can start sort of assigning those and getting rid of some of the things.
And I think sometimes, at least in my brain, I have a hard time hiring out, because I'm like, if I don't want to write my emails, nobody else is going to want to write my emails. Or if I don't want to do shipping, who's going to want to do shipping? But literally, I had a reader of mine email me. This was, gosh, 2-something years ago. Her name is Joan. I don't think she's here today. I love Joan. She emailed me and she was like, hi, I got laid off because of COVID, but I'm not ready to retire. I would like to do your boring work for you. And I was like, tell me more. And I hired her because she kind of came at me and she's like, I like things that are repetitive, things that are just, so she's updating blog posts and YouTube video descriptions and pulling links and all these things that I just find mind-numbingly boring after a while. She's like, nope, this is what I want to do because I know exactly what I need to do. I can give it to you exactly. She's created so many processes to speed things up. So I feel like I'm putting myself like, if somebody will do what Joan wants to do, if somebody's like, yes, let me update all the affiliate links on your blog, then there's somebody who will do pretty much anything for your business. And she's been working for me for years because she's amazing. And I'm like, if she wants to do these boring tasks for me for years, like, more power to her.
Yeah, I recently had someone email me. So Taryn, if you ever watch this, and I sent her an assignment that I thought was like, oh my gosh, she's going to freak out. And she goes, oh, that sounds like fun. Did not sound like fun to me. So thank you that there are people like that.
Yeah, I feel like we all have our strengths. And a lot of times, if you're watching this, you're probably a creative person, right? You're probably the person who wants to make the crafts and you want to build the business or all these other things. But there are people out there who don't. There's people out there who are just happy to be like, please give me some tasks and pay me for them. And that's all they want to do. And that's totally fine and a completely reasonable way to live your life. But you have to get over the fact that you're like, I don't want to do these, so nobody else will want to do them, because there are people out there that might.
All right. So do we want to go into challenges we're facing right now?
Sure.
Me first or you?
Yeah, you can go first.
I mean, I'll say that I always face a challenge of hiring things out. Like we just covered that and the tips and tricks for doing it. However, it never gets easier, I don't feel like. This can be a business, it's your business, and you've built it from, I started in 2010, I built it from the ground up, had my hands in it from the beginning, and it can be difficult to let go and let go of pieces of that business. So Cori was just talking about letting go of video editing, and I have not been able to let that go yet. But it's actually a part of the business that I really enjoy. So I always try to I'm keeping the things that I enjoy. So I have kept video editing up until now, but it is also a control thing. So you definitely have like this tight grip of control as you grow your business, and you have a hard time letting that go. And I will say that challenge for me never decreases. It's always a little bit of a challenge to let something new go and like hire someone to do it.
I think my biggest challenge has been Mr. Google. Mr. Google decided to change his algorithm a lot in the last couple of years, and a lot of my income plummeted, which is terrifying. I am the breadwinner in our house. My husband is a phenomenal stay-at-home dad and part-time programmer and all-around awesome guy to have around. I'm pretty sure he's vacuuming right now. Let's just give him all the praise. And so it sits on me, right? He makes some from programming, but he's a great dad. He homeschools our boys. He is wonderful at what he does. And the last thing I really want to do is like make him go back to work, because he's so happy. Our family is so happy. And I just don't want to have to do that. So when I took this huge hit to my income over the last couple of years, this was a huge challenge because, again, do I become a barista? Really? That's the like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And that involved a lot of pivoting to sort of hold on to my business. And am I making what I was before a couple of years ago? I'm not. But are we making it? Mostly. It's still a little hard, but it's, again, finding out what can we do differently. Why, let's talk about our camps. Like, Angie, let's get together and do some stuff together. Let's, collaborate with other people. Let's try something new. Let's, all of these different things. I think there just has to be this mindset of knowing that this is not going to be like a 9 to 5 where you get paid a certain salary a year. And there's inherent risks in it. And it can be really scary. So I know that if you're doing this and maybe your spouse works, that might be a lot less scary. But if it's just you, we did an episode with Jamila Payne where she talked about how she started her craft business basically from nothing as a single mom. That's terrifying, right? And so there are ways to do it, but I do feel like my biggest challenge is feeling like the business sits on my shoulders, which it does, and trying to figure out how to pivot with the new internet, with AI coming and all of these different things, trying to figure out what's next. How can I retain who I am? Because I don't want to necessarily follow the crowd with everyone, but I do realize I need to evolve. So I think my biggest challenge is just trying to figure out how to keep the business going through all these changes.
Yeah, I mean, just algorithms and changes overall. It's like every algorithm's different. They're constantly changing it. your Facebook might be doing great this month, next month it's not. You're not getting any traffic, you're not getting any sales. It it can be very tough, and it's the changes just keep coming. I will say that. Like if you are thinking about getting into this business, it's like the changes just keep coming. I mean, you think that okay, I'm doing really well on Instagram and I've conquered this, and then in a few weeks you're like, what happened? I'm doing the same things I've always been doing. Like what happened? So there's always that challenge of if the algorithm is going to be nice to you, and if it's going to keep being nice to you on whatever platform you're on. One reason we preach email marketing is because there's no algorithm. You build your list, you can market to your list. So I would definitely say like you need to be on social, but like things that don't involve an algorithm are where it's at and what's going to sustain your business long term. And we said pivot like a million times in this episode. We need like a meme or something, but being able to pivot, recognizing that you need to pivot is another challenge for me, at least. I feel like I'm slow to pivot sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the word could also be evolve because, I mean, the internet looks nothing like it did when we first started, and it's gonna look nothing like it does in 5 years. It's gonna look completely different, and as the internet evolves, as these businesses evolve, if you're doing anything on the internet, things are just going to evolve, and you have to evolve with them or you're gonna get left behind. Like, it took me so long to make a stupid Instagram reel. Way too long, guys. I mean, it was, like, embarrassing. And I was my Instagram account, like, suffered because I just refused. I was like, "No, I'm just posting photos because that's what Instagram was originally for." And Instagram's like, "Yeah, that's not what we want anymore, so we're not gonna show them to people." And it sucked. But do I wanna just shut down my Instagram account or do I wanna evolve? Do I wanna keep growing? Do I wanna keep doing this? Yeah, I do. So I have to figure out how to do it in my own way.
And now they're like, photos are cool again, by the way. like, like I don't understand. But anyway, that's the things you're gonna deal with as you grow your small business.
So much side eye to the algorithm of every social media platform. What do you want from us?
Yeah, if you would just tell us, we'll just do that.
All right. So I think oh no, we still
We're
have
gonna,
to talk about what's doing well.
yeah. So what's going well right now?
Oh my gosh, this little side hustle that I'm doing. It's not even going well financially. I've probably sunk too much money into it and I'm probably going to regret it at some point. But man, guys, my passion is back. I'm having so much fun. I said it before. It is just really nice. Not that I don't have fun in the rest of my job, but I'm having like a different kind of fun. I'm making with my hands, I'm designing files, I'm combining one of my passions with crafting. I don't know, it's just really, really fun. And I just didn't realize how badly I needed that after the beginning of the way that this year started with some health issues for a lot of people I love, that I just needed to like really enjoy my business again. And so that's been working really well for me. I think for us, I think events have been working well for us, and we do them on a big scale, right? We have our camps. They're bigger than we ever could have expected. They're awesome. Thank you for all of you who have attended one of them. But that doesn't mean that event wouldn't be something that you might want to think about in your local community. Is it a pop-up shop at your local coffee shop? Is it getting together with a bunch of different people in the neighborhood to teach them how to do a certain craft? Whatever it is, it's like creating that community and bringing people together. It's just so rewarding. And I think it can be lucrative as well if you do it right. You just have to really kind of think through what you're doing. But I do think that, I mean, Angie and I, again, also preach community all the time. And I think that anytime you can get together people locally or even online to build something bigger than yourselves, I feel like it's really fun and it can make you money too.
All right. For me, so I talked about my day in the life in the beginning. I've talked about my day in the life now. Somewhere in the middle, when I first went full time, I literally worked all the time. I was working 14, 16 hours a day. I was working 6, 7 days a week. I worked constantly. And I also ran myself into the ground. In the meantime, got diagnosed with Lyme disease. And what is working well at this point, and I never thought I would say this, but taking time off makes me more productive during the hours I'm working. And I took me a long time to come to this realization. Thank you, Nicole, if you watch this, for pushing me in that direction. but I am way more productive when I am less stressed and more relaxed. And it seems counterproductive to take time off to build your business, but I can definitely say that it's working for me. So taking those hours, taking those weekends, taking a week every now and again to where I turn things off definitely helps me be more productive during work hours. And I feel like it makes me more productive, but also less stress and a healthier me. So I would say that be careful. It is very easy in the beginning, whether you do this as a side hustle or a full time job. It's very easy to run yourself into the ground. It's probably your work's probably in your home. It's very easy to grab your computer, 7 o'clock at night. Everyone else is watching television. I could like write a blog post while we're doing this. Like I could just do it at the same time. Convincing yourself that multitasking is a good idea. Like all of those things can be very toxic to your health and wellness. So I just wanted to like throw that in there. So for me, that has been working well. And it took a huge mindset shift and a long time for me to realize that I need to do that.
And it took a long time because I'm similar. You take more time off than I do, but I take more time off than I think the average person does. But I do feel like it took some time to get there because, like, I was hustling hard for a long time, and then, I had 2 infants and 2 toddlers, right? So then I was, "When am I gonna work?" I have to figure out how to work in the margins, and then it was like, "Okay, I think we can hire like a mother's helper to come twice a week so I can work in the afternoons. And those, when I work in the afternoons, I'm not going to work in the evenings. So it's like when you do start to fill, like however your day looks, if you start to fill in time with working that wasn't working before, make sure you're balancing that out with making you're getting enough rest. I highly recommend if you have any health issues, going back and listening to our episode on chronic pain and chronic issues because we both deal with it and we both have hit rock bottom. And you could probably see our texts back and forth, which you don't want to do actually. But like when your body just stops functioning, you've gone too far. You need to be able to slow it down before you get to that point, because the last thing you want to be doing is looking up from rock bottom while your body hurts, your brain hurts, your relationships are in the trash can, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you are putting guardrails into place to protect the things that are actually the most important. Your business is incredibly important, but it is not as important as your health. It's not as important as your relationships. So whatever that is, whatever those guardrails are, put those into place so that you don't get to the point where you're falling apart.
Yeah, and I also feel like Cori and I have a conversation all the time relating to camps about doing things differently, doing things that not other people are doing, how to make ourselves stand out. And that can apply to any business. How can you like differentiate yourself from your competition? Yes, you need to look at your competition, but you're not copying them. How can you be different? How can you be better in your opinion? And that is quote unquote, because they probably think they're the best. But how can you do things better? How can you serve your ideal customer better? And Cori and I always have those conversations because that's what really works well for us. Our camps should be an experience. It should be a fun experience for each attendee. And we strive to make that each and every time and to make each camp a little different so it stands out from the rest. So we strive to do that. And I feel like that could work for any business as well.
On that topic, I'm going to give a book request. It is probably one of the most boring business books I have ever read, but it is called The Blue Ocean Strategy. And it talks about how there are red seas of competition, right? Where everybody's eating everybody and the water is bloody. It's a pretty gross analogy. And what you're looking for is the clear blue ocean. You're looking for that part of the sea that hasn't been completely decimated by everybody in the same, doing this exact same thing. So it's designed for like big businesses, but I actually have found it really helpful for my small business, being able to like, it walks you through a bunch of different ways for you to think outside of that competition mindset, to think outside of what everybody else is doing and just like take what they're doing and find ways to make it your own, find ways to make it fresh and new. So it is absolutely kind of mind-numbingly boring. However, I think it is one of the best books I've read. So that's just my recommendation. I read a lot of business. Well, I used to read a lot of business books. Now I read a lot of fiction, but it's one of the best business books I've read for trying to figure out how to like kind of set yourself apart from the competition.
All right. Do we want to ask for any additional questions in the chat now?
I guess.
If you have questions about our day in the life or productivity, schedules, whatever, and you're joining us for the YouTube live, then you can drop questions in the chat really quickly. And we just want to do a little plug for our merch store, though, before we take those questions. So, yes, we have a merch store. If you have not seen it, please, please, please head there because we have hats, shirts, mugs, stickers. If you're on YouTube, I'm wearing a little maker shirt here. Super cute. So we have a variety of shirts and other things that you can pick up from our merch store. So if you have not visited it yet, or it's been a while, then you might want to check it out.
There's some really good ones there if you're like doing a craft fair or doing other things in person. There's one that says "Ask me about my small business," and it's really cute. And I feel like I have it, and I've had several people just like random friends and stuff be like, "Wait, what do you actually do?" And so I really feel like it's one of those shirts that you can wear to like a craft fair that, gets people talking, which is difficult to do sometimes.
That's one of my favorite ones to wear.
I wear mine all the time. Then they're also soft. We picked only Bella Canvas tees. If you watch either of our channels, you know that we love Bella Canvas. And so we picked them because they have the softest tees. And yeah, so pick one of those up if you'd like.
So if you want to shop our merch store, it's link.craftingcamps.com/merch. And that's link.craftingcamps.com/merch. All right. So now, did you see any questions in the chat? I have been ignoring the chat a little bit.
I know I didn't really see any questions. I'd like to say thank you to Charlene. She said that I look happy, which just makes me, honestly, I could just cry because this year sucked. It started out so poorly. And I really, really feel like I've gotten a lot of my joy in life back.
So someone asked about like where they find our files to purchase. We could promote our own shops, I guess. So if you're on YouTube, at the top, you can actually click shop on my YouTube channel and that'll like head you right there. Otherwise it's shop.thecountrychicottage.net and or you can head to my website and it's at the top, it says shop. So either way.
Yeah, mine is store.heyletsmakestuff.com. It's also, I think it's on my YouTube channel and it's definitely on my blog.
Yeah, so if you want to check out our digital product shops, that's where we currently sell things.
We did get some questions.
Oh. Let's see. What or who were your best business cheerleaders when you were starting out?
That's a great question. Honestly, I can go on and on about my husband. He's truly, I really lucked out. He is incredibly supportive. He, when we were thinking about when we moved, it was, do I keep my job or do I let Cori do her thing? Which I think in today's society, for a man to step back and to say, hun, give it your all. And he supports me 100%. He helps out in the business occasionally. I feel like he has been I'm just so, so lucky that he is so invested in it. And then I also would say my mom. My mom she taught me how to sew when I was little. She has her own Etsy shop. She comes over to my craft room. She lives down the street. She comes over to my craft room all the time to see what I'm making, help me out. And so I help her out with stuff. And I feel like she's been just a really wonderful person. I have 3 books and she has been on behind the scenes helping me with all of my books as well, which has been just amazing to have that physical support, not just the cheerleading part of it.
I would say Cori talked about when we started how there wasn't a manual, there wasn't a guide to do this. So I would say like the online communities that we sort of made ourselves. So groups, small groups of bloggers that we sort of made on Facebook or whatever. And it's changed through the years who was in those, but those type of groups have definitely been my biggest cheerleaders and also support system through this as far as like, how do I do this? Do I need to do this? Have you heard anything about the Instagram algorithm or do you know what Google is doing? Like those type of questions, those are the only people that can answer them for me and like what I do. So I feel like that in the beginning was a game changer for me once I found like people that understood what I did, because I do feel like you're definitely like when we started out, it was like the very beginning days and your friends were like, kind of like, I don't understand what's happening. What do you do?
My friends were like, you're definitely going to be murdered by the people you met on the internet. That's how long I've been blogging. It's just like the thought of knowing other people on the internet was just like, yeah, you're definitely getting murdered.
Yeah. So I would say that would be like the best help when I was starting out.
I'd like to take Bonnie's question. Would
Where
you
was that
not?
one? Oh, I see it.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I think this is a very difficult question. And of course, like I said, I am incredibly privileged and blessed to have somebody. I think this is, gosh, I don't know how to put this. I feel like this is like at the core of a marriage problem. And this would be a really hard one for me. When I was looking for when I was dating, one of the things that was really important to me was that I was going to not be necessarily just a stay-at-home mom. Like, I didn't even know if I wanted kids, to be perfectly honest. And so I went to graduate school. I have a degree in publishing. Like, I wanted to have a career in addition to maybe having a family. And so that was something that, I looked for in the beginning. But if you get to that point and you're like, 30 years into your marriage and you're like, I want to start this thing, and your husband's like, no, I feel like that's a really difficult place to be in. And if you're in that place, I just want to give you like all the compassion possible. Um, I think that it's really hard, I think, for some people to understand what a small business might even look like. So maybe if you have the capacity with your spouse to have discussions with them, like, hey, I would like to do this, maybe write up a little business plan, show him other people who are doing kind of similar things to what you want to do. Instead of just taking that no as a no, like try to massage massage it a little bit and see if you can make some headway. This might also be something for counseling with with a professional therapist or a church counselor or something like that, depending on what kind of community you live in. But I can understand the very difficult place that you might be put in to not have the support of your spouse. Like, that would be so, so hard for me, because I feel like everything I've done has been with the support of Ryan, and I don't know how I would have gotten here without him. And so I just have a lot of compassion, and if that's where you are, I just want to send you like the biggest hugs, because it's not easy. It feels like a real rock in a hard place.
Yeah, I don't feel like, and for the podcast, the question is, would you not run your business if your husband did not want you to? I feel like both of us are privileged enough that that did not apply to us. My husband works full time and is also a part time farmer, so he has always had that side hustle mindset. So both of us had that mindset. So it was very easy to sort of like me to get into something. The only advice I would add to what Cori said, Cori gave very good advice. The only advice I would give is maybe come with a budget, like a budget plan of like, I want to do this, but I want to do it on a budget if the money factor is the issue. So the investment portion of what you would need to do to start your small business. Maybe you could start it from a place of, I want to start this business on a budget. I want to do it with the littlest investment possible and do it from that perspective. And I think Jamila's episode, we talked a lot about starting with no money, and that might be a place to start with that.
Yeah, her episode was called Craft Business Myths, if you want to go back and listen to it.
All right. Oh, I'm going to put this one up here. When are we going to know what this side hustle is?
I don't know. Soon, sometime in the next couple months, because I'm like, all I want to do is talk about it. So I don't feel like I'm going to be able to keep it under wraps as long as I wanted to. But I'm sort of trying to, here's the idea. I'll give you some hints. Basically, I wanted to take what we're teaching here and try and put it into practice, because like Angie and I said, we haven't sold physical products for a long time. And we get a lot of questions like, do you even know what you're talking about? You don't sell physical products, even though we have in the past. And so I was ruminating on some ideas, and I decided, okay, I'm going to start a little craft hustle on the side and see how it goes. I'm trying really hard to put into all of the things we talk about here, starting an email list, all of these different things we talk about, niching down, to see if I can get this little business off the ground without the benefit of using my Hey, Let's Make Stuff name. So this little craft business has a totally different name, totally different theme, totally outside of what I'm doing now, because I wanted to see if I could get it off the ground without leveraging my current audience at this point. At some point, I will tell everybody about it and it'll be super fun. And we're going to do an episode about it. We just don't know when yet. But I really wanted to show that it's possible. And I'm doing it in the margins, right? Because I'm still running a business. So I can't do this. I can't just say, oh, I'm going to run my little craft business full time because I have to run Hey, Let's Make Stuff full time. And so I feel like it's one of those things where I was like, I just want to see. I want to see. I want to put it into practice. And it's been super fun so far.
And do you want to say the name of that book one more time? Because someone asked what the name of the book you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's called The Blue Ocean Strategy.
All right. Did I get all of the questions?
Oh my gosh, I love what Diana just said in the chat where she said the downfall of not having a support single mom here. Kids too grown, doing everything on my own and nobody to support me, but nobody to stop me. I love that. I'm like, yep, there is a nice thing about having a spouse who's like, should we talk about that a little bit more?
And when your grown kids get old enough, it's almost like your own personal host of assistants there that you can start your business with.
I have had my boys come in a little bit. They've been helping here and there. I actually am tracking their time because, again, I think I've mentioned this in another episode. I'm having them help. Whenever I have them help me, I track their time so I can pay them because I never want them to think that I leveraged them for content. Like they're my kids first. They should get paid for what they do, even at 9.
All right. So I think that wraps it up. Did you see anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. This has been such a great episode. I just love when we get to sit and chat. It's really fun. So next, or in 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a day, because we did this one on Wednesday. So 2 weeks, Thursday, I don't know, July 18th, we have our next episode of Crafting for Profit Live, and we're going to be having Abby Kirsten from Abby Kirsten Collections coming on, and we're going to be talking about digital products. So we've talked a lot about physical products over the last couple episodes, but we're going to be talking a little bit about digital products because the nice thing about a digital product is make it once, sell it as many times as you want. So whether that's files for crafters, whether that's an ebook, whatever it might be, we can talk a little bit more about what it looks like to be a crafter who's making digital products. So that's going to be live on YouTube on July 18th. And then it will be up on our podcast networks on July 22nd. That's wherever you find your podcast. You can find Crafting for Profit Live. If you want to get a reminder, you can go ahead and sign up for our newsletter, which is down in the description below the YouTube video or in the podcast notes.
Now, if you think your friends and family don't understand what you put up with on a day-to-day basis, you can send them this episode. This is the episode to send them of what a day in your life is, either in the beginning or as a more advanced small business owner. And for you, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform or give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching right now. Both of those are vital to our success and help us to stay up in the rankings on those podcast platforms. And we do really appreciate it. It helps us the most if you just give a rating, a short review. That will help us the most with our podcast. So we will see you in 2 weeks for that digital products episode. So